Welcome back. Let's get into it. My name is Caleb, and I was 29 when this happened. I live in Milwaukee, and I work as an HVAC technician. I know that does not sound exciting to most people, but I have always been proud of it. I fix heating and cooling systems for commercial buildings, office complexes, shopping centers, places where people expect the air to work and never think about the person who made that possible. Some days I am on a roof in brutal heat. Some days I am in a crawl space in the dead of winter. It is hard work, but it is honest work, and I have always liked that. I grew up around trades. My dad was a plumber for 30 years, and he taught me early that there is dignity in doing a job well, even if nobody claps for you afterward. I started as an apprentice right out of high school, worked my way through certifications, got my EPA and NATE credentials, and built a life I could actually stand behind. It was not flashy, but it was mine. When I met Natalie, I thought I had found someone who appreciated that. We met at a Brewers game in August of 2020. My friend Ethan had extra tickets, and we ended up seated near a group of women who were laughing through the whole game. Natalie had this big, easy laugh that carried over the noise of the crowd. We started talking during the seventh inning stretch, and by the end of the night, I had her number. She seemed warm, curious, and real. The kind of person who asked follow-up questions and actually listened to the answers. Our first date was at a little Italian place in Walker's Point. Nothing fancy, just good food and a long conversation that felt effortless. She asked about my work, about how HVAC systems actually function, about what it was like to spend my days fixing problems nobody else wanted to think about. That mattered to me more than I can explain. A lot of people hear what I do and immediately check out. Natalie did not, at least not then. For the first couple of years, life felt easy. We had a simple rhythm, dinner at casual places around Milwaukee, movies on my couch, pizza on late nights. She came to my bowling league sometimes and cheered when I got a strike, or teased me when I sent one into the gutter. Thursday nights at Landmark Lanes were sacred to me. Ethan was there, my buddy Jake was there, a couple other guys I had known since high school. We bowled, joked around, talked about work, talked about life, and then usually grabbed food after. It was the kind of routine that makes a person feel grounded. Natalie seemed to fit into that life at first. She would come to happy hours with my coworkers. I would listen to her talk about her job at a PR firm downtown. She handled communications for local businesses, and she seemed to enjoy it. Her apartment in River West was small but cute, full of thrift store finds and plants she somehow kept alive. I fixed her faucet, mounted her TV, installed a ceiling fan she bought on sale. She used to smile at me like I was doing something important just by showing up and helping. I believed her. And honestly, I thought everything was fine. I really did. Looking back now, the shift started around February of 2023 when she got promoted. Senior account executive. Bigger clients, bigger responsibilities, bigger egos around her all day. I was happy for her. I really was. But almost immediately, the way she looked at our life started changing. At first, it was little comments. My Silverado was dated. Maybe I should think bigger about my career path. Maybe I should consider starting my own company. One of her colleagues had bought a condo downtown. Another was already making 6 figures in consulting. She said these things casually, but they did not feel casual. I told myself it was just stress from the new job. Promotions can do that. They can make people restless, but the tone kept shifting. She started comparing our life to the lives she saw online, not real lives, curated ones. The kind of posts where everyone looks successful, polished, and constantly on the edge of some better future. Looking back now, I should have seen it coming. She stopped coming to bowling league as much. Then she stopped coming at all. She called it towny, said it was not really her scene anymore. She spent more and more time on her phone, scrolling through Instagram, liking posts, commenting on pictures from people I had never met. At dinner, the phone was there. At the movies, the phone was there. In bed, the phone was there. It started to feel like I was competing with a screen for her attention, and I was losing. When I tried to talk about it, she would turn it around on me. If I asked why she seemed distant, she said I was insecure. If I suggested we spend a quiet night together, she said I never wanted to do anything fun. If I mentioned a certification I was thinking about for work, she would say it was not ambitious enough. No matter what I said, I was somehow in the wrong. But at the time, I had no idea how far it had gone. About 3 weeks before the dinner, she got even more secretive. She was always texting, always angling her phone away when I walked in, always taking calls in the bathroom or in her car. When I asked if something was going on, she accused me of being controlling. She said I did not trust her. She said I was acting paranoid. I backed off because I did not want to become the kind of boyfriend who checks phones and demands passwords. I trusted her, or at least I trusted the version of her I thought I knew. Then she suddenly insisted we needed to have dinner at this upscale place called the Metropolitan in the 3rd Ward. She said it was important. She said we needed to reconnect. I did not want to go. It was not my kind of place. Cloth napkins, tiny portions, expensive dishes with names I could not pronounce. But I agreed because I wanted to fix whatever was breaking between us. I wanted to believe one nice dinner could repair a year of distance. That detail matters. Remember it. The Friday of the dinner, I drove my Silverado downtown and immediately felt out of place. The valet looked at my truck like it had wandered in from another planet. I handed over the keys and tried not to feel self-conscious. The Metropolitan was all dim lighting and polished surfaces. People in suits, women in designer dresses, soft piano music, menus that cost more than a week of groceries. I was wearing my nicest jeans and a button-down shirt I had ironed that afternoon, and I still felt underdressed. Natalie was already there. She had picked the table, not a corner table, not a private booth. The most visible table in the room, right in the center where everyone could see us. She looked different too. New black dress, full makeup, hair done up, jewelry catching the light. It was more effort than she had ever put into our normal nights out. She smiled when I sat down, but it was not a real smile. It was the smile she used for pictures, the one that never quite reached her eyes. I ordered a doctor, Pepper. She ordered something expensive. We exchanged small talk that felt stiff and unnatural. Then I noticed Sophie and Taylor, two of her friends, at a table with a perfect view of ours. They waved like it was some random coincidence. But their phones were upright on the table. The screens were lit. Recording apps were open. Little red dots were visible. My stomach dropped. They were filming us. That was when everything changed. The dinner itself moved in slow motion after that. Bread arrived. Water was poured. The waiter described the specials with way too much enthusiasm. Natalie kept glancing towards Sophie and Taylor, checking that they were getting the shot. I could feel something building, but I still did not know exactly what. Then she started talking about her future. Not our future. Hers, her goals, her growth, her drive. The words sounded rehearsed, like she had practiced them in front of a mirror until they sounded polished enough for an audience. She talked about ambition, about needing to be with someone who inspired her to reach higher, about wanting more from life than just being comfortable. She mentioned people she worked with who were starting companies, buying condos, building something bigger. She never said my name in a cruel way. She did not need to. The message was obvious. I was not enough. I was steady, practical, and content. She wanted something that looked better online. I sat there listening, and the whole time my mind was racing. This is not real. This cannot be real. We are really doing this in public, for cameras, for likes. I remember looking at her hands because they were moving in these careful little gestures that felt rehearsed. I remember looking at Sophie and Taylor, who were trying very hard not to look excited. I remember the room around us feeling strangely quiet, like the air itself had gone still. Then she said it. She said she cared about me, but she did not see a future anymore. She said I was a great guy, just not the right guy for her. She said she needed someone who matched her energy, someone more driven, someone who understood her vision. It was a breakup speech designed to sound mature and empowering, but it felt cold, manufactured, like a performance she had already edited in her head, and then it happened. I looked at her for a second, maybe two. I did not cry, I did not argue, I did not beg, I just said, "Good luck." Her face changed immediately. She had not planned for that. I stood up slowly, took out my wallet, and dropped 2 20s on the table, more than enough for my half of the bill and the tip. Then I turned and walked out. The restaurant went silent, I mean completely silent. Forks stopped moving, conversations died, even the piano seemed to fade into the background. I could feel people watching me as I walked past their tables. I did not look at anyone, I did not look back. I just kept moving toward the exit. Behind me, I heard her voice break. "Wait." Then louder. "Wait." I kept going. Outside, the cold air hit my face and felt like freedom. I handed the valet my ticket and waited by the curb. My heart was pounding, but I also felt strangely calm, like I had just stepped out of a room full of smoke and finally realized I could breathe again. Then I heard heels hitting the pavement behind me. Natalie came out fast, and the confidence she had worn inside was gone. Her mascara was already smudging. Her voice was shaking. She asked why I was leaving. She asked if I was really not going to fight for us. I told her she had just ended it, and I was respecting her choice. She stepped in front of my truck door and said I was throwing away 3 years like they meant nothing. I told her she had done that inside. She called me a quitter. She said I never cared enough to fight for anything. I told her she had turned our breakup into a show and I was not performing for her. Sophie and Taylor had come outside too. They were standing near the entrance, still holding their phones, looking confused now instead of excited. I think the whole thing was supposed to be a dramatic moment for the camera. Instead, it had become a mess. I got in my truck. Natalie stood there frozen as I backed out and pulled away. In the rearview mirror, I saw her standing in the parking lot with her arms wrapped around herself while her friends hovered nearby, suddenly looking a lot less confident than they had inside. When I got home, I sat on my couch, opened a Sprite, and turned on the Brewers game. I did not cry, I did not pace. I just sat there feeling this enormous wave of relief, like I had escaped something far worse than a breakup. My phone started blowing up about 15 minutes later. Calls, texts, more calls. I ignored all of it and blocked her number before bed. I slept better that night than I had in months. The next morning, the calls came from unknown numbers. I let them go to voicemail. Sunday, another one, then another. I realized she was using her friends' phones. Monday morning at 6:45, I was about to leave for work when I saw her car in my driveway. Natalie got out looking wrecked. No makeup, sweatpants, hair in a messy bun. She asked to talk. I told her no. She said she made a mistake. I told her she did not make a mistake. She planned it. She picked the restaurant. She brought her friends. She had cameras ready. I asked her how long she had been planning it. She would not answer. That told me everything I needed to know. She wanted to humiliate me publicly and look strong doing it. When it did not go the way she wanted, she showed up at my house and tried to rewrite the story. I got in my truck and left her standing there. That same night, Ethan called me. He had heard through the grapevine that the whole thing had been planned for over a month. Apparently, Natalie wanted the breakup to go viral. She wanted to look brave and independent while I was supposed to fall apart on camera. She wanted the likes, the comments, the validation. Instead, she got silence. She got me walking out. And that silence made the whole thing look exactly like what it was. A setup, the fallout started fast. People began asking questions. Why were her friends filming? Why was the table positioned like that? Why did the breakup speech sound rehearsed? The original video eventually started circulating, and once people saw it, the story changed. Her version stopped making sense. Sophie and Taylor went private. Taylor posted a vague apology. The friend group started cracking apart. Natalie tried to post her own version online, claiming people did not understand the full story and that she had finally stood up for herself after years of subtle control. But the post did not land the way she wanted. People were not buying it. Mutual friends started asking for proof, screenshots, anything. She had none. I did not respond publicly. I did not post my side. I did not try to win the internet over. I just kept working, kept going to bowling league, kept showing up for my own life. Megan, a woman I met later at the hideout, helped more than she probably realized. She was a third-grade teacher, calm and straightforward, and she did not make me feel like I had to perform anything. We talked like normal people. No games, no tests, no hidden cameras, just honesty. That was the biggest lesson for me. I think what hurt most was not what Natalie did. It was what it meant. It meant she had stopped seeing me as a person and started seeing me as a prop in a story she wanted to tell. That is a hard thing to accept about someone you loved. Grief is strange. It does not always look the way you expect. Sometimes it looks like relief. Sometimes it looks like embarrassment. Sometimes it looks like standing in a parking lot at midnight wondering when the person you loved became a stranger. I also learned something about myself. I learned that I do not need to fight every battle to prove I care. I do not need to beg someone to value me. I do not need to stay in a room where I am being turned into entertainment. Walking away was not weakness. It was the first honest thing I had done in a long time. I want to give you an update because a lot has changed. A few months after the breakup, I got promoted at work. Lead technician on major commercial contracts. Better pay, better hours, more respect. Megan and I made things official, and it has been easy in the best way. No drama, no tests, no weird power games. She came to bowling league, met my friends, and fit right in. As for Natalie, her reputation took a hit. The video made the rounds. Her firm let her go, at least officially, for downsizing, though everyone seemed to know why. I heard she was talking about moving to Minneapolis for a fresh start. I ran into her once at a Brewers game. She told me she was sorry. I believe she meant it, but that did not change anything. Some things cannot be repaired just because someone finally feels bad. Life moved on. Hers did too, just not in the way she planned. I do not hate her. I do not even think about her every day anymore. But every now and then I remember that table in the middle of the restaurant, the phones recording, the silence after I stood up. And I remember how strange it felt to realize that the person I trusted most had been trying to turn my pain into content. So I have to ask you, if someone stages a breakup in public and expects you to play along for their image, do you owe them a reaction at all? Because I still think about it. And I genuinely do not know if I made the right call. Leave your answer in the comments. I read every single one. And if you want more stories like this, you already know what to do.